The only policy that Justin Trudeau, the Liberal leader, has really talked about since becoming leader is pot. Sure, he's mentioned a few other things in passing, read a few canned speeches, asked a few questions written for him by his staff in question period. But pot, marijuana, it's the only thing he truly connects with, truly has experience with, truly has an opinion about. Do you think he could even find Syria on a map? But he knows about pot, and he keeps bringing it up. That goes to his lack of seriousness. I think the Conservatives identified this flaw pretty early. They made fun of him and his goofiness in their TV ads, his weird mustaches, his weird pole dancing, his weird childishness. Not that you can't have a sense of humor to be Prime Minister, but there's got to be something else there too. Some evidence that you've done some thinking about the economy, for example. With Trudeau, he's basically been a trust fund rich kid on the party circuit until a few years ago when he decided it was time to grow up, and become Prime Minister. This isn't something that only exposes itself occasionally. It happens all the time when he isn't reading from a tight script handed to him by his handlers. I mean, take this one appearance on a popular Quebec TV show just a couple of years ago. He was already an MP, so he wasn't a kid. He was already supposed to be in grown-up mode, but he was still a child. Listen to him repeat with a child's memory the kind of anti-Alberta bigotry that he obviously picked up as a child from his father.
Certainement, quand on regarde les grands premiers ministres du 20e siècle, les seuls qui ont vraiment tenu le coup, c'était des députés du Québec. C'était Trudeau, c'était Mulroney, c'était Chrétien, c'était Paul Martin. Alors, tu sais, on a un rôle, ce pays, le Canada, est à nous.
That was just a few years ago that he said that. His reflexive anti-Alberta crap, that goes to his judgment, his open-mindedness. But look at the childishness, the lack of seriousness. Later, in the exact same interview, he thought he'd get out of the uncomfortable answer all those tough questions part and get to what he really likes to do, be a dramatic actor, a great thespian. Here's the rest of that show.
Je passerais puis je dis, hey, comment ça va? Oui, c'est vraiment le fun. Puis là, tu Tu vois, t'étais réellement inquiet, là. Il était réellement pas trop sûr si je l'avais bien fait ou non.
It's actually pretty funny, isn't it? A bit stuntman-ish. I mean, good stuff. For an actor, for someone who wants to live an unserious life as a dramatic actor, I mean, don't you think it's odd for a man who wants to be Prime Minister to be this way, unserious and uninformed on important things? But look, over here, I'll do something that you might expect from a frat boy. Well, yesterday, Trudeau blended his two specialties, avoiding real issues like, taxes and jobs, the tough stuff, and being a bit of a showboat. Here, take a look.
I have not taken other drugs. I have been, in my past, a very rare user of marijuana. I think 5 or 6 times in my life that I've taken a puff. It's not my thing. I think I'm in more trouble for having admitted that I don't drink coffee.
There he is on his favorite subject, smoking pot. Probably talked about it 5 times in this summer alone. And isn't it hilarious? I mean, him smoking pot is worse than him not drinking coffee. Good zinger. Just 5 or 6 times smoking pot, eh? Just a puff. That's his word. A puff, eh? Well, that's not what one of his major supporters, Mark Emery, has to say. Emery is a marijuana activist from British Columbia who publishes a marijuana magazine, and who actually served jail time in the U.S. for being a major marijuana seed trafficker. I've met Emery. There's pretty much only one thing he talks about, pot. And here he is talking about his good times with Justin Trudeau.
Pierre Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, for better or worse, depending on how you feel, smoked hashish. And his son has smoked with me 4 or 5 times, so it really pisses me off when I see Justin Trudeau, who took big gaggers with me, is in Parliament actually voting for Bill C-15. What a hypocrite. What a guy. And I know.
Okay, well, which is it? Is it a few puffs here and there that Trudeau says? Or is it just going nuts with the Prince of Pot himself? Trudeau was asked today about that Mark Emery tape, and Trudeau outright called Emery a liar. Look.
I have actually only ever met Mark Emery one time in my life, so that's a lot of smoking that I apparently, according to him, did. He's actually flat out lying because in the 5 or 6 times I've ever smoked marijuana, I've never done it except with people I know and trust and who are friends. And Mark Emery was someone I met, but certainly not someone I ever would have thought of smoking with, and I did not ever smoke with Mark Emery, although he smoked in front of me.
Really? Oh, so he spoke in front of him? That's an interesting thing. Well, listen, it could be. It could be that Mark Emery's lying. I mean, if a man breaks the law to smoke pot, he just might be willing to tell a fib also. But I guess that applies to both Emery and Trudeau, though, because they both smoke pot. But why would Emery tell that lie? I mean, what would be Emery's motivation to embarrass Trudeau, who he clearly hung out with and liked, and who was now advocating legalizing weed? It doesn't make sense. But what it does do is invite anyone out there who has seen Trudeau smoke pot or has smoked pot with Trudeau to come forward with their stories, doesn't it? If it were Stephen Harper admitting that he broke the law, you can better believe there would be squads of journalists looking into every detail, down to the brand of matches used to light up the joint. But hey, it's Justin Trudeau, and he's cool, just like his dad. I mean, 5 or 6 times he puffed a joint, just a puff. It was passed around. Oh, really? Well, who else was there to pass it around? I wonder if he ever smoked pot in the presence of some of his favorite media party types. I wonder if he actually smoked with journalists. I mean, we keep hearing about those private get-togethers between the media party and the Liberal Party. I mean, Paul Wells vacationed at a Liberal MP's private cabin. All sorts of journalists were on the Liberal campaign to recruit Mark Carney from the Bank of Canada to become a Liberal candidate. Were any media party types smoking joints with Trudeau? And if they were, do you think they'd tell us? A less partisan media might have asked tough questions, practical questions of Trudeau, like, who's your dealer? Who sold you the drugs that you smoked 5 or 6 times? What money did you use to pay for it? Did you smoke on Parliament Hill or other government property? Did you smoke with your staff? Have you ever smoked in front of your children? Those are interesting questions, don't you think? Don't you want to know who handed the joint to an MP, certain that the MP would accept it and not make a big fuss about breaking the law? Who had that kind of confidence in Trudeau's reaction? Who knew that Trudeau would be cool with it? Aren't you curious about who Trudeau hangs out with? Put another way, could you possibly imagine someone taking out a marijuana cigarette, lighting it, and handing it to Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister, and saying, here, smoke this? I mean, what kind of loser like that would even be in Harper's company? And if he was, who would bring drugs? And if he did, who would assume that Harper would take it? Who would be that sure of it? Does this not raise questions about Trudeau's judgment? The judgment of his circle of friends and advisors? Look, I'm not on a jihad against pot. It's not on my top 10 issues. I think pot smokers are losers generally, just like alcoholics are. I'm for individual liberty, though, but also for personal responsibility. And it's one thing to have a puff at home. It's another to be a lawmaker passing and enforcing criminal laws while breaking them. And that is what Trudeau did. He admitted he smoked pot while being an MP. Now, it's one thing to speed on a highway. That's not good. It's quite another thing if you're the police chief about that. Stephen Harper's government introduced a law back a few years called C-15 that introduced mandatory minimum jail sentences for marijuana and other drugs. To tell you the truth, I think we have higher crime priorities than people who smoke pot. But that was the law that was introduced in Parliament, and Justin Trudeau voted for it. That's what Mark Emery was on about in that clip. I'm serious. Justin Trudeau voted for mandatory jail sentences for drug users, while he himself enjoys smoking up with buddies at parties. At the exact same moment, he was voting to give the little people stiff jail sentences, mandatory minimum sentences, to take away the discretion from judges. Perfect rich kid elitist. Laws are for the little people, because Trudeau would never be charged. And if he was, he'd use daddy's inheritance to buy the best criminal lawyer money could buy. So why does he exempt himself from the law he passed for others? Now, I understand wanting to reform the drug laws. I get it. There is a case to be made for marijuana decriminalization, or even legalization. But how can an MP just pick and choose which laws he obeys in the meantime? Well, one reporter, I'm guessing it wasn't Althea Radge or Paul Wells who hang out with Trudeau, one reporter asked Trudeau about being a lawmaker and a lawbreaker at the same time. Here's what Trudeau said.
I think the largest responsibility that a member of Parliament has is to be honest and to be a good representative for their citizens. So I trust that the honesty and the openness that I'm showing with Canadians right now will be a better example than so much of the misleading of Canadians and the obfuscation and secrecy that characterizes the government we currently have.
Is that a good answer to being a lawmaker and lawbreaker? Is the top job of a lawmaker just to be honest about when you break the law, not to actually obey the law? That's a good one. Could you imagine trying that in court? Your Honor, sure, the criminal code says no drugs, but I'm an MP, and I'm special, and I'm a Trudeau, and I'm very, very honest about my drug use. Well, listen, if he won't listen to the law, maybe he'll listen to his mother? Trudeau claims to care about his mom's mental health. He even gave 2 speeches for the Canadian Mental Health Association, a charity. Though he didn't do them for free, he charged them tens of thousands of dollars, which is sort of weird for a charity event. He said his mom's trouble with mental illness made a deep impression on him. Really? Well, here's what his mom said in an interview a few years ago. She said, marijuana can trigger psychosis. Every time I was hospitalized, it was preceded by heavy use of marijuana. I miss it. It's a daily struggle. If it's around, I just don't stay around. Yeah, Mom, but you're Squaresville. Come on, Mom, just a puff. Come on, don't be square, Mom. Remember how cool it was when you were with Mick Jagger? One last point. Trudeau says his campaign is about the middle class, which is a bit of a laugh for a kid who was born a millionaire and really hasn't had to work a day in his life. And for most of his life, he really chose not to. How does marijuana affect real people, not inheritance rich, receiving fancy kids who grew up in 24 Sussex Drive, but, normal people, the middle class? Well, for millions of Canadians, marijuana is actually part of their lives, as in a dangerous part of their lives. Most job sites I know about in Canada have drug testing, construction, factories, heavy equipment. I mean, most of the oil sands have drug testing. They test for drugs not because they're square or conservative, but because if someone is high on the job site, if they're using a crane or a truck, that's going to lead to accidents that could kill people. Not everyone just hangs around at parties having some puffs. Some people are responsible, have to get up in the morning, have to work hard. But it's not just guys on a job site, it's moms at home. I'm talking about the real middle class, something Justin Trudeau is trying to learn like a crash course in some foreign language. Justin Trudeau thinks the middle class just loves pot because, his friends do. Yeah, right. Justin Trudeau is a dad of 2 with a 3rd baby on the way, Mazel Tov. His kids are young. But for every mom in Canada, what is the most terrifying thing they worry about when their kids get a little bit older? Say grade 10, these days, grade 5? That some older kid, some bad kid at the playground says, here, have a puff of this. It'll make you look so grown up. What, are you not cool? You're listening to your parents? Come on, be cool, have a puff of this. That is the great fear of every parent, especially, I think, of every mom. That's what their kids will. What's Trudeau's word? Oh, yeah, have a puff from friends. And bizarrely, it's the policy Trudeau cares clearly the most about. It's the one he's most intimately familiar with, the one he just won't stop talking about. He's the most passionate about legalizing marijuana. That's creepy. I couldn't help but think of another drama teacher with beautiful hair, encouraging young people to just have a puff of pot. Open your mind. Remember this creepy scene from a movie?
Hi.
Oops. Am I busted?
No.
I hope not.
You can't smoke grass in school.
Privilege of the profession. Eases inhibitions.
You down here for drama?
Yeah. Are you the drama teacher?
Now let me guess.
Cecile James?
No. I'm Danielle Bowden.
Danielle, oh, we spoke last night.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, how rude. It's okay. I think we're alone now.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing says middle class like a sexy cool drama teacher pushing pot, eh? Now, Trudeau is no Robert De Niro, but the reason that scene was so terrifying to viewers, it's a horror, is because it was so plausible of a powerful role model, persuasive, someone in a position of authority, peer pressure, maybe a bully, pushing pot on a good girl, too young to fend for herself, so desperate to fit in. That happens now, of course, minus the crazy ex-prisoner element in that movie, but it happens now. But Trudeau's changes would make it happen a lot more, make it a lot more pervasive, would undermine parents trying to stop it. The law says what you saw there was wrong, and so does Trudeau's mom. But to the media party, it's just more proof that Justin Trudeau is groovy, man. Yeah.